Now, in every classroom, there are going to be long periods of time over the holidays, especially when you're not going to be in the classroom able to look after your plants. And if you leave them unattended, they'll dry out and they'll die. And that's a terribly sad thing to come home to after winter break, or to come back to school to, rather. So what we do, we have a very low-tech wicking system that we set up in schools for long periods when you're not going to be around. And it's very simple. All it is an upside-down tray in this larger tray that's covered in a piece of cotton fabric. And that can be anything. It can be, this is an old t-shirt, for example. It just needs to have the capacity to allow water to wick up from this tray, which is going to become a water reservoir in a minute. I'm filling this tray, and you'll see in a minute that once it hits this fabric, the water travels up the fabric, and then once this is saturated, the soil will begin to take up water as well. And as you can see here, the water is gradually traveling up the cloth.
Great sound.
Yeah, isn't it? And then one more. You want to fill it up as much as you can. It's better to err on the side of too much water than too little water in this system. This tray can hold several gallons, and so I would fill it up to capacity. I'm not going to do that today because this is just a demonstration, but you could fill it up at least another ½ an inch. And this is a really neat potential for a lesson on the properties of water. If you're talking about capillary action, this is a great demonstration of water being sucked up into the fabric. And so that'll happen gradually. And it's actually, to speed up the process, it's a better idea to coat the whole thing in water and then fill the reservoir. But anyway, once the reservoir is filled and your fabric is moist, all you need to do is set your cell packs on top and make sure that they're on there firmly, and that there's a connection between the soil and the fabric, because if there's no connection, the water won't travel between the fabric and the potting medium. So.
And you want to be sure to remove the plastic bags when doing this.
Absolutely, you don't want any barrier between the soil and the fabric. If you're making a system like this with one of the larger pots that we planted earlier, a connection between the potting soil and the bottom of the tray of the cell pack and the fabric won't be enough. You need to cut a smaller strip of fabric called a wick, and again, this can be any kind of fabric. I prefer cotton, but let's grab one of these pots. Yes. Thank you. You can do this either before you plant, or you can do it afterwards. You want to push this wick as far as you can up into the soil, using a dowel or a pencil even. You want it to be about halfway up the pot. If it doesn't get all the way, that would be fine. So once you've inserted the wick, all that you need to do, you would trim this, because really all it needs to do is have some connection to the larger fabric. But you would set it on top of there, and water would be drawn up the wick into the pot and to the roots of your plants. And you can leave this system for up to 2 weeks. We haven't tested it any longer than that, but I would imagine that you could leave it even longer if necessary. You would just need to make sure that there was enough water in your reservoir.
You can set the pot directly into the tray with this system, right? Or would you recommend lifting it off the...
I would recommend lifting it. If you have the pot sitting directly in the reservoir, it would cut off a lot of the airflow that comes in through these holes, and that's vital. The roots need oxygen. So this way, these holes can stay open, but they're still getting water through the wick.